Where's X-Men Legends 3?
Tell you what we had planned. What we wanted to do for X-Men Legends 3 was we were going down the trail. We loved this idea that Sinister was going to kind of wrap everything that happened in 1 and part of what happened in 2 and, bring that into X-Men Legends 3. And so the initial story ideas was to go with Onslaught.
I love Onslaught so much.
So, because we love the idea of being able to say, hey, Shadow King in 1, and he had trapped Professor X and used part of his mind, and then Apocalypse said, we were going to use the angle with Quicksilver. Like, we were going to try to say, hey, well, Quicksilver, and that's kind of where the DNA from Magneto comes from. And ultimately, Mr. Sinister, that's why he was so happy on top of that pyramid, because he wanted Apocalypse defeated. He didn't care. His goal was never to... He just needed Apocalypse to bring these guys together, to grab what he needed, and then ultimately make Onslaught for... and again, we would not have any kind of official Onslaught story. We would have done our own thing with it. And what we had talked about was, we were talking about letting you make your own character. So we had kind of written up a whole design doc where what we wanted was the player to have this secret background that you would just, like, when you first create your character, you would just pick just a few sentences of the background, and ultimately you didn't know what happened until the end, and you find out, like, one version was your background was that you were actually created in a Weapon X by the Weapon X program, and you were going to be able to, like, defeat Onslaught that way. Another was like, well, no, Bishop actually brought you from the future, and you didn't realize that your memories were wiped, and he brought back, because the future that Onslaught, kind of Days of Future Past, and the Onslaught future, he does win, and this world becomes corrupted, and everything goes to hell, and so Bishop brings you back in time. So we were trying to, like, pull in multiple different storylines from what we were going to do with your character. But ultimately, we just were like, are people going to be accepting of you playing as your own character, or do people just ultimately want to play as the X-Men / Brotherhood again? So that's kind of where our head was headed for 3 for sure. It was like, it was going to be an Onslaught story based on that character. So that's as far as we got, though, before we moved on to, obviously, Ultimate Alliance.
Well, so Onslaught was not only a big X-Men crossover, it was a big Marvel crossover. Were you thinking that maybe you could bring in the Avengers that way?
So yeah, that's totally that for 100%. So we had thought to ourselves, hey, if we start this, like, we've just kind of unlocked that, we had opened the gate a little bit with Iron Man in X-Men Legends 2, and it was like, can we open that door even further with Onslaught? Like, not at first, like, it's supposed to be an X-Men based game, but can we do it that way? And so those were some of the initial discussions about that, and that's where we had hoped it was going. And I don't know if ultimately, I can tell you, I mean, I know how we ultimately got to Ultimate Alliance, how that ended up there, but it was all about, at first it was, hey, create your character, go against Onslaught, even potentially
that just sounds so great.